Now that I've said all of these things, I want to introduce our first finalist, Greg Ellis, the Chief Strategy Officer from Data Wallet.
Thank you, Greg. I'd like to, first of all, thank the 1,436 people that voted for Data Wallet in only 4 days, securing a first-place finish in the voting portion of the competition. We really appreciate the support.
What we've got here is failure to take control of your data.
So unless you've been living under a rock for the last 6 months, you have a dramatically heightened awareness of the data that you help create every day across all the platforms that you use, and a dramatically heightened awareness around both the value of your data and the risk associated with misuse of your data. That's the problem that we set out to solve. The various breaches and other events of the past few months make clear that trust has been torn apart, loyalty fell by the wayside, and we think that the solution is a personal data management platform. That's what we're building and what we will be launching August 1st, essentially arming users with basically a data management platform that helps them manage their data privacy settings, and also embeds a whole series of data privacy management tools. Essentially, we're seeking to transform the global consumer data market by putting users in control of their data, linking the various sites that they use, and then permissioning the use of their data anonymously to power up better media targeting, better advertising seed modeling, et cetera. From an enterprise perspective, we think that there's a tremendous opportunity to improve the quality of consumer data out there. In the current environment, data is scraped and captured any way that's legal, but we're left with walled gardens in places like Facebook and Google, where to activate leveraging that data, you can only work through those players. By putting the user at the center, we're able to essentially connect all of our data and provide a much more comprehensive and accurate picture of consumer behavior. So our solution rebuilds trust, brings back loyalty, and essentially checks all the boxes. From a GDPR compliance perspective, there's nothing better than basically empowering users to take control of their data. And better data powers everything better. We build ethically sourced, user-permissioned, comprehensive and accurate data sets. We span walled gardens to power better media targeting. And our audience seeds power large-scale audience lookalike modeling. We power more effective solutions because better data powers better insights, powers better media targets, powers better analytics and AI. In summary, better data powers better everything. The last thing I'll briefly touch on is that our current solution is cloud-based, and so it requires Data Wallet to serve as a trusted third party. But the solutions we're building are essentially self-sovereign wallet and a blockchain-based exchange mechanism so that ultimately we'll be able to accommodate smart contracts so that brands can essentially buy solutions and define exactly who they want to be powering that solution. And with that, I will wrap up 20 seconds early. Questions, judges? Yes.
Okay, fine. So explain to me what the monetization model is,
Yes.
and are users able to monetize?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we offer both non-monetary benefits and monetary benefits. So an example of a non-monetary benefit would be train your Alexa. So if you go buy an Amazon Alexa and plug her in, she's not a household productivity tool because she doesn't know you yet. Permission your data wallet to your Amazon Alexa, and you can essentially train her. From a monetary benefit perspective, we essentially are building up, think of it as a reward program, a points program, where you can redeem your points for gift cards, redeem your points for our DXT cryptocurrency, although in the US there's still regulatory challenges there, but ex-US we'll be able to redeem with our cryptocurrency. And 20% of every dollar that we generate from brands will go directly into rewarding users in order to essentially incent and reward them to permission their data.
So
Yes.
can you give me an example of a customer that you're speaking with now and
Sure.
what that engagement looks like?
Sure. So we are pre-revenue, and our personal DMP release is August 1st. So prior to that, our app, you had to have a crypto wallet. So imagine an acquisition funnel where out of every 100 people that come in the top of the funnel, 98 or 99 can't make it through because they don't have a crypto wallet. So we're addressing that. We are in discussions with major enterprise marketers, and the value proposition that we're bringing to them is essentially invite your customer file onto our platform in order to then be able to power up better solutions with dramatically higher quality, more comprehensive consumer data that's ethically sourced. And rather than essentially play defense trying to become GDPR compliant, wouldn't it be better to lead? And so that basically, our vision is that we're going to bring 10 enterprise marketers on board, and with their support, build out millions of users relatively quickly.
Greg, how does Data Wallet compare? How are you guys going to win versus the, I don't know, dozen other companies I've seen that are trying to solve the same problem? Why are you guys going to win in the particular application of blockchain?
We had a very successful ICO earlier this year and raised $40 million that we're investing in building out world-class solutions. And we think that the model of essentially being first to partner with major enterprise marketers who have great customer data and a trusted relationship with their customers, we think that's a really powerful winning model. And we think that there will be significant first mover advantages. So there certainly are lots of players out there, but we think that we're gonna get the most traction the soonest.
Greg, I'm curious from a product development perspective. Have you developed that any further, or are you largely at this stage relying on your enterprise clients to figure it out? That you're just performing. Well, you're creating a platform for them to derive insights and drive the activation, or are you developing that in conjunction with them or for them?
Yeah, so we're not counting on enterprise partners to build the technology. We're building the technology. So currently, we're cloud-based with Data Wallet as a trusted third party. We're building a self-sovereign wallet and this blockchain-based exchange mechanism so that in the future we'll be able to accommodate smart contracts. And we've built out a whole DX Insights platform because we don't want to be essentially shipping large quantities of our users' data while trying to keep that anonymous. And so we're looking to power up solutions like media targeting and audience seed modeling powered by our users.
Right, but that's precisely my point. It sounds like you're putting in place all the pipes and plumbing to make them successful. But what I didn't hear is anything around the product development to support the client use cases. So
Go ahead.
Yeah.
that was it.
So in terms of use cases, we think that the two biggest use cases are media targeting and audience seed modeling. And when we get to real scale, then actually selling audiences. And so that's what we're building.
Okay, we're out of time. Greg, thank you very much. Next up, on mic 4 is Phil Resnick, co-founder, president, and CTO of Thematically. Welcome.
Is the podium mic on? Yes. Great. And let's make sure I've got the clicker in hand here. And thank you. So what I'm going to show you today is a platform that takes the pain out of analyzing unstructured text. And we do this by enabling our clients to do the work that they're doing 10 times faster, generating meaningful themes and categories out of language data, using a combination of machine intelligence and human insight. So let's start with the pain. If you want to understand what people are thinking, a lot of the time the best way to do it is to look at what they're saying. That's open-ended survey questions, IDIs, customer reviews, social media. The problem is it's all language. It's messy, it's variable, it's unstructured. It takes people to understand it. And that's the pain. If you want to get insight out of language data, it's incredibly time-consuming. It is so much of a problem that a lot of researchers limit their vision and they don't even collect this kind of data in the first place. Or they collect it and then they leave it on the floor, all a part of it unanalyzed. And that's painful. We did interviews with about 40 people in the research industry space, and we kept hearing 2 issues over and over again: speed and trust. What we kept hearing is the human process for getting insight out of language data is too slow. It takes too much work. But if you throw technology at the problem and try to speed things up using automation, the problem is that people don't trust what's coming out of the systems, right? You want speed, but you also need to be able to trust the outcome. So let's talk about taking away the pain. At Thematically, our fundamental premise is that the role of AI is to accelerate human intelligence, not to replace it, right? And so let me show you how we do that. The process starts with your data. You put it in a spreadsheet, upload it to our platform. An initial set of natural language processing methods will pre-analyze the data set, doing things like pulling out words and phrases that are going to be useful in your analysis. Now, that's about as deep as most current technology solutions go. But for us, it's actually where the action begins. Our system will pull out, identify themes in your data set incredibly quickly. In fact, in the time since I said the words incredibly quickly, it will have gone through and pulled the themes out of 1,000 open-ended responses. There, it's finished. Now, at this point, you have an initial set of themes, and we put the user in the driver's seat, so that rather than having to trust what the system gave you, right? You can look at what it did, drill down, understand why it gave you what it gave you. You can give themes names. If the analysis was too fine-grained, you can merge themes together. You can boost the signal when the system is getting it right. You can suppress the noise when it's headed in the wrong direction. You tell the system what matters and what doesn't matter. And then you hit the big blue recalc button. And the system is going to redo its analysis based on the feedback that you gave it. And so you're going to get another set of themes coming out that is sharper and clearer and more meaningful. And you can then do this refinement and recalculation again, a second time, possibly a third. 4 times would be unusual because the system is getting to its outcomes quickly. The computational models are doing what they're good at, which is finding structure and relationships in the data, and your brain is doing what it's good at, which is understanding the goals and providing the meaning. So in terms of outcomes, what we have here is fast. I'm the tech guy. I don't like sales hype, but this is real. We've got, say, 1,000 open-ended responses, that entire process giving you results in 45 minutes. A dozen focus group transcripts in a day when the same data set had taken 3 weeks using traditional methods. We had a beta client who analyzed a set of in-depth interviews. It took 50 to 60 hours to get meaningful themes out, and in front of our platform, it took 4 hours. And in fact, the results were better, because what you got was driven by the data and not by the researcher's bias or by the research questions. A current client getting categories out of 23,000 web pages in a day. So the bottom line is your bottom line. What Thematically Discover is providing is a way to dramatically reduce the work and the time and the cost to get meaningful results out of language data. And once you're going that much faster, what it does is it enables you to do things that you wouldn't have imagined you were going to be able to do before with all the data that's out there. Thank you. Thank you.
So, what is the big differentiation between you and some of the competitive sets?
Right. So there's a couple of competitive sets out there, right? One is the status quo. People are doing things using very traditional methods and traditional methodologies. The vast majority of the other solutions out there are simply technology where you put in the data, you get results, and you get what you get. We are fundamentally committed to the idea that you can't take the human brain out of the process, and we've designed the entire process around doing things that way.
What are your other language capabilities? You showed us English. Does it work for other languages as well?
Yeah, so right now we do English. Our roadmap extends to other languages. The kind of analysis that we're doing is going to enable us to get going quickly. Right now, the conversations that we're having are driven by the business needs, and Spanish is at the top of the list.
How do you monetize it? What does the terms of trade look like?
Right. So there are really a couple of different models that we've been using. In terms of the SaaS platform, we actually charge on a project basis. And typically we can then price it using project bundles and so forth. We also have been using consulting very effectively, where we have been eating our own dog food, so that we do consulting engagements, in the, say, the 5-figure range, where people are paying us to use and improve our own platform. We have our first 6-figure consulting engagement probably starting in about a month.
Do you see this as a tool primarily for agencies or for end clients, or both?
So this is really a tool for everybody, right? If you have the language data, it's a SaaS platform, and we're agnostic as to who is using it. Right now, we are focused largely, we have a pretty robust sales pipeline talking to things like the large research companies doing this sort of thing. But at this point, really the next thing is to sort of broaden the sales approach.
What's the single biggest challenge you guys are facing in building out your tech? What's the hardest problem you're solving?
Specifically about the technology, or just in terms of the business? I think in terms of the tech, we are in a place where we have a platform. It's robust, it's out there in terms of the core functionality, but there's a lot of stuff that you need to build around that, is the glue, the things that are associated with billing, for example, things that are associated with monitoring, things associated with support, and we are actually on the ramp up to taking care of those things now.
Sorry, one last question.
Sure.
Do you have APIs to integrate with platforms like SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics, Decipher?
Right. So we do not currently expose any APIs, but the system is architected in a very sort of clean standard, a lot of internal APIs. And so we have designed it with that in mind. There are, in terms of things like the uploading of the data, in terms of things like pulling out the results, right now it would be a pretty simple matter to do things like expose the result download using JSON instead of the way that we're getting it to the user right now. Yeah.
So, question for you: there's a company called Canvas that uses AI, but it's looking more at emotional reactions. Can thematically get at emotion in terms of the open ends, or?
So currently we are not doing any emotion analysis. I actually have done commercial sentiment analysis. I was the lead scientist for Conversion and built the original version of their sentiment platform. The way that we are approaching this right now is that what people really need, where the real pain point is not identifying emotions automatically, it's understanding what's behind the emotions. People just don't want to know just kind of what people are feeling, but why. So what we found is that what makes the most sense is to take the data sets, segment them out in terms of the emotion. For example, we worked with a client who had reviews and do a separate analysis for the positive and the negative, and then be able to do those things, identifying why people are feeling the way they are. Again, it would not be difficult to add an API out to, for example, Conversion's technology or any of the other technologies in order to actually suck in the sentiment analysis and integrate it into our platform.
Have you ever thought about collecting public information, developing a syndicated model, rather than working on a project-by-project basis? And are there any technical constraints do you envision that would prohibit you from doing that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The short answer is no, we haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. I've collected FCC comments and done analysis on some of the net neutrality comments to get a feel for what it would be like to do large public data sets. Again, the technology is pretty agnostic. And we're at a stage now where we have a product, we have clients, we have revenue, and we are ready to start exploring if there are other places we should be pushing into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up we have Stance. So there you go. You're on.
Good morning. All right, Stance. So what we've built is a social community platform with which you can build audiences, private communities, either public communities that you can access or private communities. And in those audiences, we use a new construct that we're bringing to the world of market research called assertions. Assertions are essentially statements rather than questions which you agree or disagree with. Based on that binary sentiment and discussion that underlies it, which we parse in real time, we expose insights to you. So you get very rapid answers. If you want an answer today, we can provide that to you. This is a little overview of our platform. And what I'm going to do, rather than tell you about it, is actually show it to you. So if AV could start the demo, I'd appreciate it. So the problem today is market research is consumed with time-consuming inorganic methods, focus groups, panels, surveys. So the question becomes, how do we make this more natural, organic conversation and capture real insights? So this is what happens today. You have in-depth inquisitions, or also known as in-depth interviews. And these are highly organic methods where people are sitting in a hot seat and they don't necessarily express their true sentiments and feelings because the nature of the conversation and interaction is, once again, inorganic. So the solution is Stance. The platform that we built, which you just saw, enables you to build your community. You're Uber, and you want to build a community of 5,000 Uber drivers to understand how drivers feel about tips in San Francisco in real time. We can do that. You're Nike, you want to build a community of people that like jogging to understand how they feel about different types of shoes. We can do that for you. You can also mine our public communities, entertainment, sports, auto, pets, for organic types of insights in real time. This is what natural conversation typically looks like. So the question becomes, how do we mimic this closely? Here, you see people asserting themselves the same way they do in a conversation that they have with their friends, with their social circles. We're capturing these sentiments, we're capturing the conversation underneath it, and we're extracting and exposing insights in real time from that. Our platform works on mobile, iOS, Android, desktop, native applications, web. It's completely seamless. It's highly agile. As you can tell from the nature of the platform, you get very rapid answers in real time. It's very easy to use. You can see that from the UI. And it's very scalable. We can have unlimited community sizes for all practical purposes. The scope of applications is very broad. You want to build a community for consumers and market research, we can do that. You want to build a community of employees to understand how they feel, their sentiments, we can do that. You want to build a community of your constituents because you're a politician to understand what messaging you should use for your voters, we can do that. There's two founders, Emmanuel, who's in the audience here with me, and myself. We both, Emmanuel has 20 years of experience in technology, building highly engaging consumer experiences. I have 20 years of technology experience investing. We've both been founders and CEOs before and sold companies before. We've partnered with MMR, and they are going to be working with us.
And that's it.
And we're done.
I always get excited when I get to cut someone off, you know, it's just whatever little role I can play. All right.
Questions, please. Yep.
Can you plug this into social media platforms? My question is, you're trying to drive someone to do something somewhere else. How do you think about actually embedding it into the flow of what they're doing on a regular basis?
Sure. So it is its own platform. It can be shared across social media. You can push these things onto different platforms like Facebook and Twitter, so on and so forth. We drive users in. We have a community today. We have over 1 million people go through the platform. So we have a community today that's a public US community. So if you asked us to build a private community, for example, when we spawn, let's say, a pets community, we start by sourcing those individuals from our own community. And then if we need to extend beyond that, we can extend by pulling people in from various social media platforms, be it Facebook, be it Twitter, be it online, and other sources as well. Does that answer your question?
So what are you defining as a community then? Someone who's answered a question on your platform, or is there something more?
Someone that wants to learn something. So as the example I gave, for instance, you're Uber and you want a private community of your Uber drivers. We can build that. You're Nike, you want a private community of people that like to run. We can build that. You're one of our customers, a California State Senate candidate. He wants to understand on a zip code by zip code basis for his district what matters to people in this zip code. They care about minimum wage. People in that zip code care about, labor laws. People in that zip code care about public transport. So anyone that wants to create a community in that essence, we can do. Beyond that, however, I want to point out that the public communities, which are open communities that anyone can join, can also be mined for insights.
So for your current clients, how are they getting their insights from you? Give us some examples of what they're doing, what that output would look like.
Sure. So the senator example is good. So for instance, what he's doing is he wanted to build a community of people in his district in California. And from that community, they push content and assertions which they can learn from. The community itself engages by the nature of the platform. We have a highly engaging, active platform. So in these communities, because there's natural conversation occurring, we're parsing all of that in real time. We're capturing those agrees and disagrees to those assertions, using all that data cumulatively, feeding it into an insights engine that we've built over the past 5 years, which applies proprietary data models, machine learning, AI, all the fancy technologies that you're hearing about, and ultimately exposes the insights to our customers on a native desktop application and a clean dashboard, which is what you were looking at about 3 slides ago. And that's how it's delivered.
How are you recruiting participants, and what's the value proposition to them? What's your business model supporting it to clients?
Sure. So participant recruit, so first of all, there are people on the platform today. Let's start there. So when we create a new community, we begin by getting participants or respondents essentially from our existing communities, because we can get them into there. If we need to go beyond that because you have a particular sample frame, for instance, certain demos that you need to hit, we can extend beyond that into social media, like your question, and bring people in from Facebook, Twitter, et cetera. The value proposition for them is multifold. First off, most people have an innate need to be heard, particularly as millennial culture, Gen Z culture is starting to expand. What you're seeing is they're very expressive. They're different than most people in this room when they were millennials. They're loud, they want to be heard, their opinion matters to them. They need people to listen. So people do this, and we see this today, with no incentive whatsoever. They'll go through thousands of assertions simply because they want to express opinion. They'll create assertions because they want to be heard as to what they want to say, what they say. They want people to know what they're feeling. They want people to react.
Explain to me the assertion model. Like, is that one way? Are clients the only ones that are posting?
No, 100% of the content is user generated. So the users in the community are creating the content themselves, much like today, no one creates content on Facebook, right? Like Facebook doesn't create content, Twitter doesn't create content, Snapchat doesn't create content, Instagram doesn't create content, neither do we. We're tech guys. We didn't come from the market research world. We came from Silicon Valley. We built a very sophisticated, highly engaged, beautiful UI that people would want to engage with, would want to use. We started from there. And now that we have that, we're utilizing it in order to leverage insights, learn, and get the data. We've also built full gamification to the prior question, which I didn't have a chance to address, full gamification to the system. So if a customer wanted to provide rewards, they could. So for instance, those points, every time we create a new economy, essentially for a new community. So you're Uber, you launch a community of drivers, that creates its own, spawns its own economy. You're Coca-Cola, you create a community that spawns its own as well. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, next up, we have Rosto. Come on up with Group Solver. There you go. You want mic 4, or do you want to talk in this thing?
Let's see, can you hear me okay on this? Yeah. All right, let's do this.
Cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Rasto Ivanic. I am the co-founder and CEO of Group Solver, an intelligent survey platform. And we help companies and decision makers answer their burning business why, what, and how questions. Now we focus on open-ended questions because usually those are the questions that really keep us up at night. Those are the questions that, that worry the business. Why is our product failing? Why are customers not recommending us more often? What features should we have in our next product release? Now those questions are usually obvious to the managers, but untangling the answers is more complicated. So I'll oversimplify things a little bit, but today generally you have 2 ways of going about it. You can use an online survey type of do-it-yourself platform, or you can hire somebody to help you answer that question. Now there are shortcomings. Surveys and do-it-yourself platforms are great for quantitative quick data. They can give you economic fast read, but they're not very good answering those open ends in a way that make business sense to you. Now you can hire a consultant and you get thoughtful answers for sure, but they might take weeks and we know they're not very cheap. So in this day and age when decision makers cannot wait for weeks to make a decision, and when we need to incorporate the so what into a decision-making process all the time as we go along, we need a better solution. So we built one. So Group Solver is a platform that is as easy and as quick to use as an online survey, but it generates the reports to those open-end answers that you can read in real time, and you don't need a PhD to interpret. So how do we do this? Well, we use some tricks. We use AI and machine learning to work with fast, small, real-time data. And the trick there to make it work is to actually use the human brains of our respondents to help us train that machine as we go along. So the answer gets better the more people come in. The process starts by a traditional unaided answer. The respondents answer in their own words. There is no moderator, there is no pre-coding, there is no expectations of what the machine should be looking for. Now the machine takes over for a little bit. We take that answer, break it into individual logical parts. We'll remove the rubbish, any kind of gibberish, profanity, or zero-value answers, such as I don't know, or skip. So that doesn't even get to a database. Then we take a look at those answers and see if anyone else has already used that answer before. If we find a match, great. We know what you're saying, it gets recorded. If we are not sure, we might go back to that human brain and ask them to help us identify what I'm really saying. And finally, we will take a look at all the answers that are being generated, that are making any difference, and we are playing them back to our respondents to see which ones will make difference, which ones are most important, which ones are least important. So we have them evaluate those answers back again. To respondents, this feels very natural. If you have ever been on Facebook or if you chatted or texted, it feels very natural, vertical UX for the respondent. It's pretty interactive. For the researcher who is running the study, we have created a very simple drag and drop user interface so you can build that interaction with your respondent the way you like it. You can control what they see, how they interact with you. So you have a full control over what gets done. But of course, the most important thing for you, for the decision maker, is reading the results. And what we do, we provide you the answers in our reports that are very easy to read. It will tell you which answers were most important, The bigger the bubble, the more important they were. How the answers relate to each other, and you can even separate and split the answers based on the demographic groups. So do you want to know if women or men answer the question the same way? You can do that right in real time. So we have used Group Solver in to answer various questions. Anywhere from answering questions like, why is this ad going to work? What people are seeing in it, all the way down to, I have this new product, I'm trying to figure out pricing, I want to know which attributes are going to drive the pricing. And we make it very easy to work with us. Whether you're looking for a do-it-yourself tool that you want to program yourself and you want to analyze yourself, we have a solution for you. If you want us to do the work, we are happy to help as well. So we have been very fortunate to work with some amazing brands who allowed us to come in and help them answer some of the really cool questions. So if your logo is not on here, and it's not because your legal told us not to do it, then you have a probably burning question we can help you with. Thank you so much.
All right, judges?
I stumped them, which is probably not a good thing.
Well, you covered your terms of trade, which was like always my question. I already asked this thematically. Mm-hmm. So it feels to me like it's a sentiment analysis engine. I'm obviously missing an important component of that. Is that the ingestion of the human or the human intervention?
Yeah, so we believe also in human brains informing the machine, except for we put that power of the human brain to the respondents who are in the question and in the context to help us train the machine, not the researchers looking at the data ex post. Yes. There is no moderator, there is no pre-coding. It's literally everything is driven by the respondents and the way they answer the questions. So, it starts with a blank sheet of paper.
Help me understand really where you're winning. Lots of great logos, congratulations. Which of those clients has bought from you repeatedly, and what specific reason are they doing that?
Well, I cannot tell you specific questions because there is a confidentiality issues, but for example...
Speak about this, you don't have to tell me the name of the client, but why is one client really buying?
I can name Discovery, for example. Discovery does a lot of new programming, new apps, new things, and they're using us to test, to see if they would resonate and why with the audience. They even use us to help them name the new apps. We have Racetrack coming back with a lot of marketing initiatives, understanding whether the new products or new marketing campaign is going to resonate and why. Google is a repeat client as well.
And you've presented it as completely automated, the process. Yes. Even initiating the original questions is done on an
The question starts with a business. So we start with a business question. Typically, a client says, look, I have a problem. This is what I try to answer. Right. The way that you ask yourself the question when you can't sleep at night is exactly how you ask it in a study. Right. Because chances are that's going to be easy to understand to the respondents. The rest of the process is automated. Of course, we allow you to mess with the data in the end and do some analysis yourself, but you don't have to have anyone directing the conversation or removing things and moving them while in the process.
Right. But there's no training of a model.
No.
And to kind of
the model gets trained from all the studies.
That you train a model to be able to ask those questions, because I can just imagine you start the process.
And there's no training.
And until it's trained, how do you make sure that the respondent gets something that's gets a question or a subsequent series of questions that's relevant to them?
Well, so when the answers get populated into the system, we are first of all sampling from the answers that are being provided. Those that are becoming more prominent, they get repeated more often.
Right.
But there is no training on a specific question. The only training that happens is on the things like removing gibberish, removing zero-value statements, and that's getting trained through the studies as we do more of them.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if I'm the first respondent.
If you're first responding, your job is mostly to start creating the data set. The more respondents come in, the more focus is on evaluation of the existing responses.
Okay.
So, this feature that the engine wraps itself around the responses in real time strikes me as relatively innovative and interesting. I have two questions that spin off of that. The first is it different enough that it's patentable in some way? And the second is, because it's different, are there instances where it introduced some new kind of bias that you didn't necessarily expect that was interesting that you had to correct for?
So we do have patent on the core way of creating the consensus solution. There are always biases in any market research. We are trying to overcome them by not trying to guess what the respondent is going to react to, but rather using sound sampling strategies from existing database and to give every idea a shot to present itself and validate itself.
We have another 45 seconds.
You talked about the subscription model. Is that dependent on any features at all and sample size?
We like simple life. Yeah. So when you're with us, you're with us. So the subscription is based on how many studies you do for a period of year, typically. Okay. But then we can also subscribe to services. So a lot of times we have clients who just don't have capacity to do a PowerPoint copy and paste from a dashboard. So we're happy to do that for some money. Okay. But we like to keep things simple. So it's driven mostly, once you get a sign up, you have all the features for now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Good job. All right. Next up, Allegra McNeely with Apricot.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Is that better? I'm Allegra McNeely, and I'm here to share with you the power of Apricot to transform shopping in retail stores, especially brick-and-mortar grocery stores. So over the last few decades, technology has really changed the way we shop. Especially the internet and online shopping has transformed our experiences. They've made everything easier, and they've also made it much more personalized. A big part of that is the data analytics. That gives us targeted ads, personalized suggestions, such as those that Amazon offer. So brick and mortar stores really need to innovate to stay relevant. Now, in brick and mortar stores, we have a lot of transactional data. The point of sale data is heavily mined, but we don't have a lot of data on how the shopper moves through the store, their browsing history, their dwell time, item substitutions, and that sort of thing. So we have the end of the store, we have the point of sale, but we don't have the narrative arc of how the shopper moves through the store. Anyway, I'm talking about how shoppers shop in physical brick and mortar stores, and there's a lot of data that's missed. And any data that's missed is a missed opportunity to serve the customer. Some of the things that we do know about customers in stores are up to 70% of in-store purchases, and I'm talking about retail grocery stores, are made in the stores, and that customers that dwell more spend more, and that customers that dwell are not decided customers. So there's really an opportunity there to influence how they decide. And this is where Apricot comes in. Apricot is a smart shopping cart, and it doesn't look very smart, and that's part of the idea. Focus groups told us that there's some resistance to shopping carts that look too futuristic. So there's an unobtrusively embedded machine vision system. There's some little tiny eyes in the cart that are hardly even noticeable. And how it works is the shopper goes through this store shopping as they normally do. As the items are put into the shopping cart, they're recognized by the system. So it's tallying the system, the goods as you go through the store. Now the benefit that we have is that we're capturing all of that path to purchase data. And we have a screen that's in front of the handlebar. So it's a direct line of sight platform, and it's a dynamic platform that we can use to influence the shopper. Now, this is our current interface. It can be developed in many different ways. How it is now, we have the receipt on the right. Now, say, for instance, the customer has put in bagels. We can show them an image of bagel with cream cheese as a reminder for them to buy cream cheese. It doesn't always have to be a coupon. If they put in strawberries, we know maybe they would like strawberry jam, perhaps strawberry ice cream, or maybe we just give them a recipe for strawberry shortcake, and in that way, we inspire them to buy more ingredients for a strawberry shortcake. Now, what do we offer retailers? Well, the biggest friction point in a retail store is the manual checkout. And this is a scanner system at its basic level. So when the customer reaches the exit, they just pay on the cart and walk out. So that's a great incentive for the stores to adopt the technology and for the customers to use it. And also, in addition to a greater throughput of customers, we also offer the retailers increased yield. We can get a larger basket size because we serve the customers better. And the more data that they get about their customers and how they shop, the better they are able to serve them. What does Apricot offer shoppers? Well, we offer that personalized shopping experience that people are used to online. They get offers that are related to what they're interested in and what they need. Now, if they sign in with a loyalty card, because this can be used anonymously, or it can be, there's an opt-in. Now, if you sign in with a loyalty card, we know what you normally buy every week. We know if you have a dog that might be running out of dog food. We know if you have a baby that might be running out of diapers. So we can really give you that personalized experience, and we can give you a more frictionless shopping experience. What does this offer the insights industry? Well, obviously, we have a robust data set that we're building of path to purchase data. Now we have the ability with the embedded system to provide instantaneously actionable insights. And we have the digital platform that's dynamic and can be used in a multitude of different ways to influence the shopper at the moment of decision. Now, basically, we are machine vision people, and we want to work with people in the insights industry. So we're here basically to, to collaborate with you and talk about the different possibilities that we can do with Apricot. Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't speak into the mic and you missed anything, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have now.
What is the retailer required to do to get this into their store?
Okay, so for the retailer, this is why we're working with chains. We have to have have all of our products. We have to know all their products. So we need the opportunity to learn their products. We need to learn their store, and then we need an API to interface with their point of sale system, because obviously we have to give that data to we're not doing the point of sale. We're obviously letting other people do that, but we need to be able to interact with their system for that.
How do you map out the store? Like, how do you know where the carts are within a store? Knowing that one store may be different from another store. So how does that all kind of work?
Yeah, so there's embedded machine vision systems on the carts, and as they traverse the store, initially we have to teach the store by running the cart around the store, and then every time the cart goes through, it just reinforces the layout of the store.
So for it to be scalable, you would have to do every store?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And then is the system weatherproof too? Like how durable is it over
so
time?
That's one of the reasons that this is a complete solution. Other people have done advertising on carts before, and some other companies are doing add-ons but one of the reasons that we're using this particular cart, which is a plastic cart, can I go back to my slide, or is that okay? Okay. Anyway, okay, let's see. No, it's not working. Anyway, in the cart, there's channels. Everything is embedded. It's like a car. It's definitely weatherproof, and that was one of the reasons that we used this particular cart, is because it's a plastic cart. All of the electronics are embedded. Actually, the weakest point is the touch screen of the thing, but those can be ruggedized as well. We do stuff. So, like I was, didn't quite get a chance to talk too much at the end, but our experience is in machine vision and machine learning, and we do stuff for military contractors and everything like that. So we have a lot of experience building stuff that can be used in ruggedized, extreme, right here. So yeah, you can't really see very well, which is the whole idea. But this top edge is where all the wires and stuff are embedded. And then there's also a panel here where our embedded system is behind there.
So, two questions for you.
Sure.
The first, when you talk about path to purchase, you were literally talking about the footfall.
Correct.
Get to
the literal path to purchase.
And then secondly, explain to me the consent model. So I'm somebody who's coming to the store for the first time. I'm giving you consent to track my data just simply on the fact that I'm using the card, or?
Okay, so we are, the cameras on the cart are actually not looking at the person. So none of this is linked to you as a person. Basically what we know is customer A comes into the store, they put in product A, they put in product B, product C, and this is how they shop the store. So that information is anonymous, and that is without consent. Now, if you sign in with a loyalty card, which a lot of grocery shoppers do, and we're talking with 2 grocery chains, Hy-Vee and Stop & Shop, and neither one of those chains feels that their customers are going to have a problem signing in with a loyalty card. All their best customers do. And so when you sign in with a loyalty card, that's a definite opt-in to share your information. But you can use it, and the benefits can be, shared with you even without knowing who you are.
Is this a SaaS model or CapEx for the buyer?
I don't really know the answer to that question. We're a startup, and we haven't really explored everything yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. I think his question was, who buys the shop? Does the supermarket buy the shopping cart from you and own the data, or do you provide the shopping cart and you own the data?
Okay.
Or you're not sure yet?
Okay, so this remains to be worked out, but the model that we're discussing is basically so that we can own the data, we provide it to the store for free.
And where are you in terms of rollout? How many stores, beta?
We're a startup, and we're in development still. This is not a simple, from a machine vision standpoint, it's a kind of complicated project because you have many, many items to teach. And not only that, it's a motion, it's a moving background with very low power requirements. So we have a suite of patents that we've filed, and we're in development. So we haven't got to those stages yet. And again, with the models and the pricing, this is what we're imagining and envisioning, but it all depends on how things work out. And, as a startup, we want to make it work for everybody. So,
Right. Allegra, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have Owen Hanks, co-founder of Measure Protocol.
Hi, everybody. I'm Owen Hanks. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Measure. I thought I'd just start with this, is that each year as an industry, we spend about $3 billion on sample. That means that we've got an awful lot of well-paid respondents, right? Well, not true, because about 10% of that $3 billion gets to the sample. So it's not surprising that every year at this conference and others, we talk about declining participation in market research. We talk about professional survey takers and the increasing nature of them. We talk about lack of transparency. And we continually talk about long, poorly formatted surveys. And I thought that one might go away some time ago. So what we have been thinking, and we came up with an idea, sort of radical, if you will, but what if we change the economics of the sampling business completely so that when a researcher has, let's say, $5 for a piece of sample, that they actually give the $5 to the respondent? Radical, I know. But actually, what I've just explained to you is actually Measure as a business. We're building a human-generated marketplace that's powered by the blockchain. But the blockchain is actually just a functional mechanic because it allows us the technology to do that. And what I'm describing to you is that my business takes no margin, zero margin from that transaction. The researcher passes the respondent the full $5. And I'll try and give you an idea. This is a big coordination problem that we think that the market research industry has, and it's easiest described economically like this, is that currently, if you have, and just use $5, just follow this for a second, $5 that you pay for research, 40 cents goes to the respondent, and $4.60 gets consumed by the ecosystem, panel companies, sample engines, etc. Our model is this, that we take the $5 and we transition that directly from the researcher to a respondent. But what if you want to not spend $5 as a researcher? What if you've got less money to spend? Well, look, you only got $3, you spend a reduced amount, that's 40% discount, and yet I still increase the value to the respondent significantly, 8 to 9x. But it's not just about the economics. I have to rethink the whole rules of conduct of market research and the way that sample is given. So we increase that through transparency, and that is where the blockchain helps us, because we keep a record of events that's on the ledger, which means that both parties know what's happening. The privacy is denoted by the blockchain, but not always. We don't put everything in the blockchain, and for anyone who wants to talk about that in a second, we can, in terms of GDPR and how that happens. But I'd be a stupid person to stand up here with a company that hadn't thought about ticking the boxes, especially as a Brit, about GDPR. So we talk about privacy, and it's opt-in. The consumer controls all of their data. We've built a reputation score, not just for the researcher, but actually for the respondent. We want to be able to denote good and bad actors across both of those sides. So if the questionnaire is too long, is not set up for a mobile phone, then actually the respondent gets to tell the researcher that too. But fundamentally, we're building something which is open access. This is a protocol. So yes, we will build tools on top of it for ourselves, but actually we encourage the research industry to build on top of it too. We're trying to create something that brings research back to its purest form. And we're trying to do it without changing the workflow. I like to call this the comfortable slippers. A researcher gets to use the same sample controls that they would have right now, and they get to think about the same interview tools that they have right now as well. We intend to change nothing for the researcher's day-to-day job. And I told you I'd talk about how it's a zero-margin business. Well, it's a blockchain business, and that tokenization allows us some significantly different business models. We are not a non-profit. We do this for a profitable nature, but we survive on the merits of our business. So the tokenization, the amount that network gets used increases the ability for this business to excel. And there's one last fundamental, which is a little too complicated to talk about in 5 minutes, but we use something called the Burnham-Mint equilibrium, which basically allows us a very special way of talking about monetary economics. Thank you very much for taking the time.
All right, judges.
Owen, what's key to getting massive consumer adoption, which is key for driving this? How do you get people on?
It's a good question, Ralph, and apologies I didn't make your breakfast, but I was trying to do this morning. Consumer adoption, it's a big part. It's one of the biggest challenges we're putting an application in consumers' hands. I think there's some fundamentals of where we come as a business. So we've actually built previously consumer-based applications and businesses. One of the team is Angry Birds. So we actually come at this from a marketing consumer acquisition. They'll be paid normal marketing, but we also have the ability through this tokenization to look at actually acquiring panels and thinking about how we use those panels existing as well. So we have the twofold ability, not just to do standard marketing to build our own organic, but actually to acquire panels. Because one of the things that the protocol allows us is to actually work with partners to build that ecosystem, because everyone benefits from the protocol being built in the right way to start with, not just us as a singular product on top of it. So it is a challenge, no doubt, but it's something that we've overcome before in past lives.
I think what you're proposing is fascinating.
Thank you.
But a couple questions.
Sure.
One, what evidence do you have, if any, that it'll lead to better quality data?
Yeah.
To me, that's the most fundamental question from a client perspective. Second question is, if you completely decimate the business model of the research industry, which I acknowledge is flawed, I think there is a fundamental issue about how the research industry model has worked. What kind of business will you have at the end?
Yeah, so two very good questions, thank you. So can I ask the second one first?
Sure.
So I think, I have, not in a research environment, stood on stage and said that this is going to completely eradicate a middleman. Maybe a little overzealously from me to start with, but the truth is that actually it changes the way that we have to think about the panel business. And I make no bones for the fact that actually, if we have panel businesses that are not thinking about this and don't understand how to work with this, then come and talk to us, because actually we have the ability to do this for the merits and for the good of the industry that keeps the industry growing. So I'm not here to eradicate panel businesses. I'm here to make them better. And maybe if people take such a large margin, and they shouldn't, then there's an ability to make this a better industry with better responses, so we don't have to keep talking about the lack of quality and a professional sample size. So that's the second one. The first question is, can you repeat exactly so I answer it properly, Jeremy?
What evidence do you?
Oh, evidence. The evidence about how, increasing the quality.
Is better. So that to me is the
sure.
The fundamental question. Yeah.
The
fundamental question is the quality of data as good or better?
Yeah.
If you go direct to the response.
So I think there's been many studies that say, what happens if I increase the 40 cents to 41 cents or 41 cents to $1? Does it actually change the quality of the response I'm getting? And there's actually, in this room, there's a number of researchers who've actually done that research. I'm not necessarily saying that moving it from 40 cents to $1 changes, but I get more breadth. I will get more breadth fundamentally from the actual ability to have more people be part of this ecosystem. If I then extend that to not just a simple sample that I'm talking about here, but I add healthcare data, healthcare, or then I start to extend that to different audiences, that at this moment in time, I always ask myself this question: would I give up 15 minutes of my day for 41 cents? Well, no, I wouldn't. I have done for the last 10 months because I've filled in a lot of sample questions, quite frankly, but to understand what that 41 cents looks like. But there is an inflection point with almost everybody on something that's actually relevant. And that inflection point is something that we're doing a lot of research in. This is not a live product at this moment in time. We intend to go live around September of this year with the first MVP of that product. And we get the ability to ask at which points those things are. We have some natural benefits as well, is that actually we're also connected to another quite large community, which is called the cryptocurrency community. And as a group of individuals, we're very well connected in that community, which brings a completely different set of sample people into this community that don't currently exist in it right now, who almost have never heard of what happens in a market research survey panel. And we use those as our education as well at this moment in time. So there's twofold.
Okay. Thank you, judges.
Oh, thank you very much for your time. Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have Rasim Shah, Director with Okra Technologies. And we've got a microphone.
Thank you.
And a little clicker.
Yeah, great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rasim. I'm from Okra Technologies based in the UK. Okra is an AI machine learning business that's empowering both life sciences and consumer brands with evidence-based foresight in real time. So what do I actually mean by that? We are answering natural language questions, so user questions from within the business in real time, and we're supplementing those answers with predictions and answers to the critical why questions. So no longer what happened and why it happened, but what will happen and why will it happen. And we can do that because we have the capabilities to combine multiple data sources to drive market outcomes. Just skip a few slides. So imagine you could ask your data a question and it answers you back in real time. It's an interesting concept, but imagine it gives you the right answer, a validated answer, an evidence-based answer that you can then drive market outcomes with, because it's important that we don't just strive for better decision-making, we strive for evidence-based decision-making. And those questions that you could have at any one time within your business can be very varied, and we've looked at a number of questions to be able to answer them in real time. They can be about what will drive brand growth for the next 6 months, or why is brand X growing or in decline, why are people buying our product versus the competition, and so on and so forth. And we have the capabilities to answer all these questions instantly in real time, whether on your phone, on your desktop, so you no longer have to wait for answers which could take weeks, months, if not several months. The solution we've developed is an award-winning solution. We won the MIT award last year, and it works in real time. We combine multiple data sources. We map multiple behavioral profiles across the data sets. We learn, we understand. Most importantly, we spot anomalies. We spot the signal in the data that is leading to outcome. It's called change point detection. And then we automate outcome prediction, and we automate the way that you can interrogate the data. Very simple to use. You select your data, you upload it on our private authenticated platform, set your inclusion criteria, define those outcomes. And the most important step for me is step 3. This is the validation piece. I've been in the pharma industry 15 years. Everything I've ever done has been about evidence-based decision-making. And that's where we blind test. We look at historic data, we train, we blind test, we validate, and then we go into real-time insights. So why should you believe me? I'm telling you we can predict the future. I'm telling you we can answer the why questions. We had a top 5 FMCG client come to us, multiple data sets that their analysts are analyzing, taking sometimes up to 60 slides that are then transferred in the business to get insights. So they said, how can you consolidate that so we can get a real-time view of our holistic KPIs and that we can interrogate it with natural language questions so that anyone in the business can use it? We developed that and deployed it within 8 weeks, and they can ask questions such as, how's my brand performing in Brazil, in London, in Rio, in Atlanta? And in real time, they get the answer. Market share, predicted market share, markers of growth, markers of decline. But I might want to ask, well, why is it gaining? And then we develop reason codes, reasons around the stores, pricing, penetration, conviction, relevance, all linked to whether or not the market share is going up or down. You can then dig further into the data. I can't put all the questions up here, but you can look at multiple brands, the competitor brands, different geographies, manufacturers, but the important bit is real time, and you can take action instantly when you see something is not right. So customers and marketplace, we work in 2 verticals, life sciences and consumer goods, and we're doing some work in care services, which is matching carers with children to prevent placement breakdown. We're talking to a lot of people. We only have 4 paying customers at this stage of our development, and I can talk about that a little bit more. Why do we play here? I think everyone in this room has probably forgotten more about market research than I know, but there's considerable funds there and spend and value for real-time automation. Our business model is simple. We have a proof of concept stage. We have to validate. We have to show you the accuracy levels of what we're saying, of what we're predicting, and the answers that we're giving. We've got the minimum viable product, and then we go into subscription. And there are some criteria around the subscription. We are not at the subscription phase yet. We hope to be there within the next 6 months. The team is very ably led by Dr. Lubna Bouafa. She is MIT award winner. She's been grounded in machine learning, and AI for the last 15 years, and has predicted in real time errors in surgery and also led the leading fraud detection system that is now deployed worldwide. In March this year, we closed $3 million of funding, and really we're here today to understand how we can partner with you. And that's it. That's my 5 minutes up. Thank you.
All right, judges.
You mentioned that you do have some customers. Can you describe one of those relationships?
Yeah, of course. So we work, as I said, both in both verticals, pharma and consumer brands. If I focus on the pharmaceutical sector, large pharma notoriously slower adopting artificial intelligence or any new technologies. And we just had our first customer upload the data to our platform, which we were told in pharma you will never be able to do. And we have done that, and the company is Sanofi. And we actually won their global startup challenge at VivaTech about 3 weeks ago, which was exactly what I presented here today.
So specifically the data that they uploaded was?
Multiple data sources. So we've looked at stuff like NHS EPAC sales data, activity data from CRMs. We've even looked at combining it with deprivation data, QoF data, which is quality and outcomes and frameworks data, looking at how all this affects the predictions that they want to make about potential sales from certain locations, but also how can that then feed back to the sales team in terms of predicting what messaging they should be using to drive sales in those areas when we can identify the signal in the data.
So moving forward, with specific engagements, you'll have a framework for future customers to say these are the data sets that we need.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you talk about the ability to predict the why, not just the what, but the why, and the slide that you had up appeared to me to perhaps resemble what I think of as a more traditional attribution model. Mm-hmm. So is that right or is that not right? In other words,
so what we're looking at is if what you're doing doesn't change, this is what will happen in the next 3 months or 6 months from now, and these are the reasons or the signals within the data or the multiple data sources that we've managed to combine and profile that are leading to this outcome, and they are then ranked in order of importance based again from all the data feeds. And sometimes we combine social media data, and that's the primary data set. Other times it's market data. So in that example, that was Nielsen data, Kantar data, Millward Brown data, and social media data. There was a lot of data sets. And to combine that and deploy it and validate it in terms of the accuracy from blind testing, 8-week process.
the actual building and training of a model, of a network, are you doing that in some fundamentally different way from other providers?
Yeah, so we have IP around our data extraction and integration, and also our algorithms are all built in-house. And this goes back to probably 2006 when the research was started by our CEO in predicting errors in real-time surgery while a patient is on the table. And of course, there it's not about market share, it's about fatality. If you get it wrong, and that's published work, and from there, we've moved on to where we are today.
If you just go a little bit deeper, the challenge of integrating data sets is obviously a big challenge. So talk a little bit more about really specifically the kind of IP you've been building in helping do that fast and efficiently.
Yeah, so you probably gathered I'm not a technical person, so my level of detail won't be that great, but it's about Bayesian profiles. We create our own Okra Bayesian profiles, and therefore what we're able to do, so on that example, you had brand, you had genre, you had packaging, you had geography. They are all the profiles we'll look at, and all the data that we bring in will be mapped across those profiles. We'll then be able to detect the signal, so change point detection, what signal in the data is leading to outcome. We filter out everything else. Then we train, we validate, we develop a level of accuracy, that baseline that the client has to be happy with. So typically 85%, 90%, and then the system is deployed, and then it will learn and get stronger from that point on.
And did you say that was about an 8-week process?
Yeah.
8 weeks.
And then the system will stay with the client to hopefully forever to learn.
So they just keep updating?
Absolutely. Data refresh as the data comes in, we then revalidate. Everything is about the evidence. You know, if we want people to use our system and to trust the output to then take action, you've got to believe that it is the right decision to make, and that comes from the evidence.
Do you own the models that you develop around outcomes, or is that owned then by the client? And how does that get managed?
Good question. So we own all the IP around the profiling, and then the outcomes is, of course, between us, and then the client will use that in their own way, if that makes. So they will own the eventual outcome.
Great. Thank you very much. And our last before our break, and we have several more coming up after the break, Josh Shapiro with SurveyWX.
Thank you, everyone. Here we go. All right, so what we've seen today, there's a lot of exciting startups coming out in our industry, and there's no doubt that they're going to solve some niche problems in some very exciting and creative ways. Unfortunately, I don't do that. What I'm focused on, and what we're focused on at SurveyWorks, is we focus on solving only the most boring problems that apply to everyone in this room. And right now, the biggest problem that we face is the fact that you require a statistician to analyze results of any kind of research that you're doing. So what we've created is a software platform that completely automates the statistical analysis process when it's applied to any kind of research. Now, there's obviously other, well, let me tell you, so in other words, let me explain that. In other words, anyone in this room can create their own predictive models, chi-square, any kind of factor analysis, or cluster analysis without knowing what a cluster analysis is. There's obviously other statistical analysis software out there which allow you to run this kind of techniques. The problem is that they require a statistician, because it needs a human to tell it what function to run and how. Instead, what we've created is a platform that uses artificial intelligence to understand what you want to accomplish, it looks at the data, it runs through its catalog of techniques, and figures out how to apply it in a way that, at the end of the day, it just presents you the insights in plain English. You can imagine the use cases in something like this. So most Fortune 500 brands are going to have their own data science or statistical team. We can just help them become more productive, especially in cases where a problem just needs a quick drill down or just a quick turnaround. But the real benefit here in this industry is going to be smaller brands that are trying to compete or consulting firms. We all know as smaller brands, most of these guys are just skipping statistical analysis altogether, or they pay once a year to bring in a consultant to do it for them. What we can do is this software will allow them to actually bring this in-house. And on the consulting side, research agencies can actually start to use us, white label our service to bring that in to their service and to their customers, which basically means that there's more people offering data science and statistical services, which comes back to the Fortune 500, having access to a broader pool of talent to work for them. So let's take a look at how this works. And these are actual screenshots of how our software works. So let's say that you want to run a predictive analysis on a behavioral question, or let's say that you want to look at your survey questions and figure out which one predicts a person's NPS score. So what you're going to do is tell SurveyWorks that you want to predict NPS score. And then you're going to list out every single variable that may possibly have an effect on NPS score. What we're going to do, the SurveyWorks is going to run a collinearity test to look for any conflicts on its own, deal with those conflicts, and then it's going to use this, it's going to run every single combination of variables through its database of techniques, statistical techniques, and it's going to figure out what the best, what's going on in the data. And the end result, so first of all, there's inspection. So if there's anyone who's skeptical out there who's an advanced user, you can inspect everything that we're doing and audit it. But at the end of the day, this is the outcome of what the software is going to tell you. You see here, it's telling you exactly what's predictive in there, what's not predictive. It's writing it out in plain English. And the one thing I want to draw your attention to is that not once do we use the word regression. This is meant to explain things without any statistics because the software takes care of that completely for you. Now, there's other use cases. I just talked about regression. We've got factor analysis modeling. This is literally the same kind of model that you would pay $10,000 and $20,000 for with someone like the modelers. You could do any kind of sample representation. We do make it really easy and painless for you to analyze that. Survey tabulation, we do some great online benchmarks and reports and slide decks that will produce out there. Segmentation and cluster analysis, like I say, you don't need to know anything about that. And discrete choice is TBD. It's coming out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So on the output, what if you want something in the middle?
What do you mean by that?
Well, like maybe you want your coefficient or...
Yeah, absolutely. So that goes back to the audit screen, the inspect. So I don't know if it's possible to go back to that. Let's see. Yeah, so this right here, I mean, it's showing you the best regressions. It's saying we recommend these out of all the combinations, and it shows you p-values. So it lets you do this. We actually have it set up so that you have to say you're an advanced user to see this. So anyone else not an advanced user, all you see is the text that says what the insight is.
So help me understand so you don't have to have any kind of background in statistics, but I guess when I look at this and I look at some of the emerging and smaller brands that I consult for, I don't even think they would be able to go through that process. I mean, I don't think they have the research background, the knowledge to even go through that process. I'm trying to understand the output, yeah, looks really, really friendly, but how are you getting people down that path?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally in the software, they're saying, okay, I want to predict the NPS question, the likelihood to return. And the variables, all they have to enter in is the variables that they're going to do. So they might
but I
put
don't
in.
even think my clients would know what variables go into predicting NPS.
Well, it's just the answers to a question, right? So it's they're saying question number 1 is what's your income. Question number 2 maybe zip code. So they just in the software say, you know what, I want the answer to this question, the answer to this question. They may possibly be predictors, and then it's going to go in and feed that information. There's also an option where they can just select every variable that's in there. I mean, that's the power. And that's really the power of doing something like this over a data scientist, is because this can run every single combination and do it all. In a sense, it's doing exactly what a statistician would do, but it's doing it at a much higher volume and in different combinations, and then looking at it exactly like they would.
Where are you in terms of actually deploying this now?
So it is, it's been developed. I basically, paid for it, took it out on myself to do it. We have built out. We have 3 customers right now. The thing I should know is that everything we've developed, we actually had customers pay before it would even existed, and then we developed it to their specifications. So we have 3 customers right now. I'm in talks with several consulting firms to do this. To be able to white label our service. Does that answer your question?
Yes, maybe just expand a little bit on what to those clients, what's been the most acute common need across them?
Yeah, it actually varies. The biggest one, so we've been focused on the smaller ones. Honestly, a lot of these guys just want simple tabulation. And then you start talking about it's just the very basics. I know everyone here is a big brand that you did that 10 years ago, but the people I'm talking to are just light years behind. I even have a client that used to use paper surveys. They're in the nonprofit space. It's just and that's really the thing here is that there's an opportunity for Fortune 500, but the real opportunity is smaller guys that aren't really doing this, don't understand this, be able to do that. Does that answer your question?
Great. This is a tool to be, used on highly structured data, right? In other words, it's not a big data, unstructured data kind of tool. Or are there use cases where you can kind of let it loose on semi-unstructured data and have it discover explanatory variables?
Well, that's a great question. So you could use something that would convert the unstructured to structured, and we would come in the behind scenes. So everyone that presented, any software company out there that does their own thing, we can work on the back end of that by pulling in the data of what they analyze. So we just focus on the statistical analysis piece, the part that everyone has, having that statistician in the back room doing this. That's what we're trying to automate.
What do you see as the overall market opportunity for the platform? So if you're focusing on smaller brands, consultants, smaller agencies, what's your projection in terms of what you could do in revenue in the next 3 years?
Yeah, so we are looking. It's hard right now. Right now, I'm looking for funding. So that's going to obviously, it's all limited based on how much I can get out there. But honestly, the contracts I have available, I'm seeing at least do $1 million in revenue in the next 18 months, and then from there, it's literally like I say. I know the demand's there because everything I built here wasn't my idea. It's a customer willing to pay me before it even existed, and I just built it to their specs.
All right, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.